currently in the NFC North and making a stop in Detroit and talking some Lions with Tim Twentyman. He is the Lions insider and reporter for Lions.com, and he joins us now. Tim, how are you this afternoon, my man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Obviously, the Lions on Hard Knocks this training camp and throughout this preseason. And I was saying earlier in the show, a lot of people are kind of falling in love with at least a few guys that from that show, characters from the show, if you will, because they got some lovable guys, starting with the head coach in Dan Cambell. There's a difference, though, between loving a guy and believing in a guy. Where are Lions fans at with Dan Cambell in year number 2?
Well, you obviously love, what he's trying to build here. That word grit that he started out with in that first episode. And look, it's Detroit, right? It's Lunch Pail, it's the Motor City, and that resonates with the city, resonates with the fan base. You want your football team to identify with your city, and that's certainly Detroit, and that's Dan Cambell. But like you and I both know, it ultimately comes down to wins. Like, that's what NFL coaches and NFL quarterbacks are measured on, is wins and losses. So, it all sounds great. I think they're building it the right way. They're building, inside out trenches. This offensive line is going to be really good. They've got some pieces, but, they've got to win. And I think that starts this year. 3 wins obviously wasn't good enough last year in his first season. You've got to see markable improvement. To me, that's playing meaningful games in the month of December, being on that graphic of, teams in the hunt of the playoffs. So you love the coach, you love the direction it's going, you love some of the characters and what they're building in the foundation here, but they've got to win.
I know I'm jumping way ahead and we'll fill in some of the blanks in between, but since you brought up meaningful games in December and being part of that graphic, do you think they can get there this year in 2022, or are we still a year away from that maybe?
I think we'll see. I think they can be in that graphic of playing meaningful games in the month of December. I think the really encouraging thing is offensively. They've got arguably one of the top 5, top 3 offensive lines this year if they stay healthy. They've got a guy in DeAndre Swift who's really trending toward being one of those kind of really good, 3 down backs. They've got a Pro Bowler in TJ Hawkinson. You saw what Amon-Ra St. Brown did as a rookie with a franchise record 90 catches, 912 yards, and he was the 17th wide receiver taken in the draft. We'll see what Jameson Williams provides when he gets back, and DJ Chark and some of the weapons they've got offensively. They should be really fun to watch, and they should be good. And I think it's just really going to depend on how many steps forward this defense can make. But offensively, I think they're good enough to be in that conversation of winning enough games to be playing meaningful games in the month of December.
Talking with Tim Twentyman, senior writer and insider for Lions.com here on Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports, 1140, as we take a tour around the NFL leading up to the kickoff of this season. The one guy who you didn't name off there, Tim, and I don't know if it was omission just by forgetting or if it was intentional, but it was the guy who's supposed to make it all go, and that's the quarterback, Jared Goff. And he's lost a lot of believers over his last year in Los Angeles and then his first year in Detroit. Do you feel like there are believers in the building in Detroit, or is he still sort of a transitional quarterback for them?
No, I look at what happened. It was really a tale of 2 seasons for Jared Goff last year. Obviously they started very slow, but once Dan Cambell took over play calling for Anthony Lynn, and then they elevated Ben Johnson from the tight ends coach to the pass game coordinator, and Ben Johnson is now the offensive coordinator. Jared Goff was 3-2-1 with 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 101.8 passer rating the second half of the season. That passer rating was 6th best in the NFL. And he's really kind of picked up where he left off last year during camp. He's been really, really crisp. I talked about the offensive line and the weapons he's got. And so, I think there is a belief that Jared can be more than just a transitional quarterback. Look, he's still only 27 years old. He's won a lot of football games. Mm-hmm. He's been to Pro Bowls. He took the Rams to the Super Bowl. He's been a very, very productive and winning quarterback in this league. And when he was really good with those Ram teams, look, they had a good offensive line. They could run the football. play action is where he's at his best. If you can protect him and he can stand back in there and sling it, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft for a reason. He can sling the football, and we've seen that in camp with their ability to protect him and improve the weapons that he's got. So, look, it's a big year for Jared Goff, obviously, to prove that he can be the guy in Detroit. But all indications in camp is he's been really good. He had a really good start to the preseason. Last week in that first drive, took him 10 plays right down the field, completed some balls, and scored a touchdown. So he was really good in joint practices with the Indianapolis Colts today. We'll see where that goes tomorrow, but he's been really, really good. And there really is some excitement that maybe they found the right recipe with the pieces that they put around him to be really successful.
You mentioned the joint practices with the Colts, and when you talk about DeAndre Swift and sort of looking to take that next big step in his career, and I know you, I happen to agree with you on a lot of the things you say about Jared Goff and how quickly people forgot how productive that guy can be. But it feels to me like Swift in that running game will be the focal point of that offense if things are going well. Almost looking like what we see with Jonathan Taylor and that Colts offense. Is that what you think they envision for the Lions offense?
Yeah, that's certainly what they want it to be. When you look at last year, they rushed for more than 1,800 yards. They averaged 4.4 yards per carry, and they had 12 rushing touchdowns. They hadn't done that since Barry Sanders was toting the rock in 1998. And that offensive line didn't even play a complete game together as starting 5 last year. So they really think that could be a big part of this offense. It's funny, I talked to DeAndre Swift today after practice, and he was kind of asked, hey, what are your goals for this year? What are some individual things, you want to accomplish? And I love the confidence. He said, look, I want to run for 1,000 yards and I want to catch 1,000 yards worth of passes. And I thought, it was bold. It's only been done 3 times in the NFL, but I think he's that good. And if he's running behind this offensive line and some of the additions they've made on the outside to open things up in the middle for him and Hawkinson and St. Brown, I think that could possibly be a realistic thing. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, which he hasn't proven he can do his first 2 years. That's the key to the whole thing with him. But he's an explosive player, and you see what he can do in open space. He was leading all running backs in receptions last year when he hurt his shoulder on Thanksgiving. So, he's a dynamic player that they just want to get the ball in his hands. And if those guys up front can stay healthy and he can stay healthy, I think he's going to get an opportunity to accomplish that goal.
Last one for you, Tim. We talked entirely about the offensive side of the ball, and obviously some parts there that could make for a pretty good offense. But this team finished 27th in the league in defense last year in terms of yards, giving up almost 380 yards per game. What are they doing to try and correct that?
Well, yeah, it's still a work in progress. Obviously the addition of Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 overall pick, has been key. One of those stats too is they were 30th in sacks. They were second worst in the league in pass rush win rate. And so, they needed some juice up there. And so, they get Aiden Hutchinson at number 2. They draft Josh Pascal, a defensive lineman out of Kentucky, in the second round. And they've added some pieces there. Malcolm Rodriguez, a 6th-round pick, has been, making a lot of hay here in camp. He's already playing with the starters. And so they've added some pieces, but that's the big question mark, like I said off the top. If Aiden can be as good as they think he is and can give them some juice as a pass rusher, I think they'll be better. But really, the Lions are going to win more games if that defense is improved. That's really the big question mark going into the season. They've got some young pieces they like. We'll just see how quickly they develop.
That's Tim Twentyman, Lions insider and reporter for Lions.com, and our guest for the last few minutes as we stop in Detroit and the NFC North in our tour around the NFL. Really appreciate the time and the insight, Tim. Great stuff, man.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, man.
And there he is, Tim Twentyman.